fellas. Welcome to the show. Got a video here from, I don't know when it's from, but it's a recent video, and it's from Ron Paul, and we're going to watch it here.
Hi, I'm Ron Paul. You might recognize me as the congressman who spent 22 years defending American liberty. Or maybe you've read my best-selling book, End the Fed. But my first passion was actually medicine. In fact, I've been a medical doctor for nearly 60 years. So I view the coronavirus pandemic through a different lens than most politicians, and certainly different than the experts you see on TV right now. Which is why I'm reaching out to you today through this video. There's an important message I worry is lost on those who are listening to the media's hysterics. What I'm about to share might sound controversial, but I'm not trying to scare anyone. I've always tried to be a voice of sanity and reason, even in turbulent times. But my beliefs often run counter to the mainstream narrative. I simply want to let you know what's really happening and show you something you and your family can do today to protect yourselves from what's really lurking around the corner. Because no matter how you look at it, the government is going to use this crisis to gain even more power and control of our lives. See, right now, we're hearing it all. Everything from, the coronavirus is just like the flu, to an estimate that more than 100 million Americans will be infected. At this point, it's unclear just how the coronavirus will ultimately shake out. Either way, one thing is certain, this pandemic is being used by those who want to profit politically from the panic. I realize this might seem shocking given everything we've been told in recent weeks, but just look at the facts. Since September, the common flu has infected 36 million Americans and killed an estimated 22,000. But nobody ever suggested a fall or winter quarantine. Same with tuberculosis, a disease few of us worry about. More than 10 million people worldwide fell ill with tuberculosis in 2018, and it killed 1.5 million. Or consider the fact that 38,000 Americans die every year in car accidents. Nobody has ever used that as a reason why Americans should stay off the streets. The coronavirus is a drop in the bucket compared to the worst pandemics in history. The Spanish flu, for example, left 50 million dead. The Black Plague killed as much as 60% of Europe. Why is there so much fear and panic then? Well, I think it has something to do with this. The media has created a terrifying narrative, having mentioned this virus 2.1 billion times just by the end of March, scaring anyone who watches the news that this is the apocalypse. But even the academic research is reaching the conclusion that this crisis is blown out of proportion. It was barely reported anywhere in the news, but Nobel laureate and Stanford biophysicist Michael Levitt says there's no statistical support for the government's prediction that millions of Americans will die. His conclusion, we're going to be fine. And the epidemiologist who created the main coronavirus model that's been cited in the New York Times and used by government health organizations worldwide, drastically downgraded his previous projections based on new data. He says he's reasonably confident that the medical system will be able to keep up with the virus. But none of these facts matter to the elected officials who overreact with easy money handouts or the fearmongers who dream of martial law. To them, this health crisis is a perfect opportunity to steal even more of our constitutional freedoms and set America up for a socialist future. For example, did you know that the Department of Justice recently asked Congress for the ability to detain Americans without trial during emergencies like this? If granted, you or I could be arrested and jailed for months, even years, until the government deems the emergency is over. Others have proposed we eliminate all political borders. I guess this would somehow magically eliminate the virus. And according to a recent story in Politico, the White House Coronavirus Task Force is considering creating a national surveillance system to track Americans' health information, essentially a health care patriot act. The truth is, after so many years in Washington, I thought I was immune to being shocked by what our government does. But the actions that our elected officials, the Fed, even the medical community have taken in the past few weeks have gone beyond anything I could have imagined. Look at what happened in just 1 week. The Senate reactivated the Patriot Act, the biggest destruction of the Fourth Amendment of our nation has ever seen, all because of a virus. Congress passed a $2.2 trillion bailout package, the biggest ever in history. Of course, with $25 trillion in debt, our government doesn't have the money to actually pay for all of this. But that's not a problem for the Federal Reserve. After cutting rates to 0%, they quickly opened the doors to unlimited quantitative easing and are now printing $125 billion a day. As part of this bailout, the government is also sending checks to most Americans, no strings attached, virtually identical to the socialist universal basic income idea on which Andrew Yang based his failed presidential run. And it might not be the last time the government uses this strategy. Of course, we all realize the money will largely end up in the hands of the well-connected rather than those who most need it. See, the biggest problem with a crisis like this is that nobody stops to ask the real questions, like, how does the financial system get so bad that a virus can collapse the entire U.S. economy? Or, will one-time stimulus actually fix the economy or just make Americans even more dependent on the government? Or even, what is the dollar actually worth if we can print an unlimited number of them? But none of this matters. Everyone just wants a quick fix, an easy handout, and politicians are happy to oblige. Unfortunately, these policies and those that are sure to follow in the coming weeks and months will cause even greater damage to the Americans they are designed to help. So please, as a citizen of this country, pay attention to what your government is doing right now. The people running our country today are living in a fantasy world. And if you're not careful, you could be the one who pays the price. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the coronavirus is harmless. People will continue dying as it continues to spread. And I agree that those most vulnerable should take precautions to limit their risk of exposure. The latest numbers from Italy's National Institute of Health show that 99% of those who died from coronavirus had at least one pre-existing condition. So people like this should definitely use common sense and exercise caution. But not everyone who gets coronavirus will die. Even more surprising, not everyone even shows symptoms, as the research and anecdotal experience is now showing. Bottom line, I believe this virus has been overhyped by government officials, and the results, which we'll only begun to see, will be to spend more money than they ever have before and wipe out even more of our freedom. It will take time and happen slowly, but it's all part of their plan to make Americans totally dependent on the government. But this is an attack on our civil liberties. You see, the reality is these emergencies, measures that get passed, never actually go away. Their long-term financial consequences continue to grow, and if you're not prepared, what's happening today will create a nightmare for baby boomers and others who are retired or nearing retirement. What our government is trying to do today has been tried many times before in dozens of countries. Hitler, Mao, Mussolini, Stalin, no matter who's in charge, these socialist policies always lead to disaster. If you think this sounds extreme, just look at what's already happening to our most basic constitutional rights. According to the Wall Street Journal, data mining firm Palantir, which was credited with helping to find Osama bin Laden, is working with the Centers for Disease Control to model the virus outbreak. Other companies that scrape public social media data have contracts in place with the agency and the National Institute of Health, documents show. So much for the Fourth Amendment. I guess it doesn't apply when you have Facebook on your phone. And guess what? If they could locate bin Laden in a remote compound in Pakistan, you and I don't stand a chance. Then there's all the shutdowns, curfews, and the quarantine orders that have swept the nation in clear violation of our Fifth Amendment rights. In many states, it is now illegal to publicly worship in a church. A blatant disregard for the First Amendment and many state constitutions as well. I've never seen anything like it in all my years in government. For years, I opposed these policies in Washington. I never voted for more debt. I tried to audit and even put an end to the Federal Reserve. I swore to uphold the Constitution, an oath I took seriously. But what the folks in Washington are doing today puts us on a course for another financial crisis, even worse than the huge stock market drop we've seen in recent weeks or the crisis of 2008. And it will ultimately result in the most dramatic presidential election of our generation. You can ignore that ugly fact, or you can take the necessary steps to protect yourself. The choice is yours, but you've got to take action personally. Get the facts for yourself. Learn the steps necessary. Protect yourself and your family from what's coming next. And that's why I put together this short message for you today. It's something you and your family can do in your own home, even if you're on government-mandated lockdown. Right now, hardly anyone in Washington is talking about this situation honestly with the American public. Most Americans still have absolutely no clue what's actually going on, but I'm hoping to change that today. I spent 22 years in Congress. I served on the House Banking Committee and the Committee on Foreign Affairs. I sponsored well over 600 legislative bills. I've met with every president of the last 40 years and every Fed chairman. I've spent many hours in top secret closed-door meetings in Washington. And today I'm going to show you what's really happening in our country. I'm also going to recommend a great way for you to protect yourself and your family. Most people I've heard from in recent weeks correctly sense that there's something big happening in our country right now. A huge shift is taking place, but they don't know how to make sense of it. And it's ultimately because with crises after crises, 9/11, the 2008 financial crisis, to the coronavirus panic of today, our government has embarked on an out-of-control experiment, printing absurd amounts of money to bail out whoever needs it. Borrowing so much money, our country can never, ever hope to legitimately pay it back to our creditors. Of course, this was going on long before the coronavirus ever appeared. Even before the panic started, 74% of Americans were living paycheck to paycheck. And even though you might assume that refers to low-wage earners, 1 out of 4 families making $150,000 or more a year were in the same boat. Given this, it's no surprise that almost a third of American adults had no emergency savings, or that 70% of Americans have cried about money. It's also explained why household debt recently crossed the $14 trillion mark, the highest ever on a record. And why at the bottom end, roughly 40 million Americans are on food stamps. Nearly 1/6 of all children living in homes that rely on them. The latest numbers from the Congressional Budget Office show that more than half of all citizens now receive more money from government handouts than they pay in federal taxes. Perhaps this explains why membership in the Democratic Socialists of America jumped nearly 500% in the past 2 years, and why 43% of Americans now say socialism would be good for the country. But today's panic will have even more disastrous effects. Most folks don't realize that the real yield on savings right now is negative. We've already seen the stock market collapse, erasing all the gains that have accrued since President Trump took office. Goldman Sachs predicts the economic impact will cause GDP to drop 2.5 times as much as any other decline in history. Unemployment numbers are now beginning to skyrocket. Right out of the gate, unemployment filings were 20 times higher than normal in states like Michigan and 40 times higher than normal in Louisiana. And these are likely to get much worse. 49% of companies are considering layoffs, and the Fed now estimates unemployment could eventually reach as high as 32%. With workers out of a paycheck, they will be forced to spend money they don't have.
It makes you wonder what's happening that in the government. It makes you wonder what's happening on the inside. I mean, are they trying to divide Americans? Is it going to be divide then conquer? Is it, if they get enough division in America, they can step in and claim martial law, and they'll have you all stuck in your homes. Won't be allowed on the streets. Rationing food. Yeah, that's what it's coming to. It's going to be, if the media and the Democrat Party get their way, it's going to be bad. They're going to have total control. And that's what they want. They want total control of your life. They want to rule you with an iron fist. They don't want to leave office. They don't want to be elected every year or not take a chance on not getting elected. They want to be there for life. And it's up to us as Americans to stop it. This is our government. It's not theirs. It's ours. And the only way to stop that is vote these crooked politicians out of office. Man, you got to vote Trump. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you think about Trump or his past or what he did or didn't do. If you vote one of these crazy-ass Democrats in office, you're in trouble. The country's in trouble. I mean, the media plays this virus like it's serious, and it is serious. There is some seriousness to it. It is serious for those that have underlying conditions. And you need to take precaution. And if you live with somebody that has an underlying condition, you need to take precaution for them. Don't drag it home to them. But this election is going to be the downfall or the uprise of America. Trump brought it back once. But if he can't keep that next 4 years, it's going to go worse than what it is now. Think you got it bad now? Wait till all the businesses shut down. Government controls everything. Controls how much you get paid for a job. Everybody will get the same pay. You have to wait in line for food. You get meal ticket. What are you going to do, folks? It's in your hands. You heard what Ron Paul said. The millennial vote's bigger than ever. That millennial generation, if they all vote, have one of the largest voting groups in the world or in American history. But you guys, we all got to make a decision. I ain't going to say you guys. I'm going to say as Americans, we have to stop this hate and listening to the fake news because they're dividing us even more.
It's all fake news. It's phony stuff. It didn't happen.
And we need to stand up, fight back against all this stuff that the Democrats are feeding us in the media, because it's all lies. They're feeding us lies. They're hiding behind the curtain. It's like the Wizard of Oz. You got these Democrats hiding behind the curtain, pulling the strings of this mainstream media like they're puppets.
You are fake news.
And if you don't see that, there's something wrong. There's something wrong if you don't see the chaos that the government is causing in the media. They want the division. They want martial law. They want control of your life. And believe me, they'll get it if you don't stand up. This ain't fun games anymore. You young millennials and all you people out there, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, all of you. Don't you see what you're doing? You're just feeding the narrative. You're feeding into this game. You're buying into it. You think the Democrats are actually backing you. It looks like they are, and they might be, but they're only backing you to get their agenda through. That's all it is. They want their agenda pushed through. When they get that and they get a grip, it's going to be bad for you along with the rest of America. Don't think you're going to get a free pass just because you're out there doing their bidding. These people are evil, guys. These Democrat and left-wing batshit crazy devils are evil. They want control. They're tracking your health. Hell, who knows what they're going to do? Who knows what they're going to do with that? It's going to be, if you're sick and dying or you have some kind of an illness, it's going to be, let them die. That's what it's going to be, guys. You don't see it, there's something wrong with you. If you don't see where America's headed, you need to wake up. I'm talking to all you Americans. Wake up. It's time to take a stand. You have a voice, let it be heard while it still can, while you still have the freedom to let that voice be heard. Americans need to be together, not divided. If we're going to win this, we have to stand together. Stop dividing us by race. It's the human race that matters, and it's the human race in America that matters right now. That's what's at stake. Why can't you guys see that? I mean, you people on the left are crazy. They got you, those Democrats and those far left dipshits in office have got this millennial snowflake generation so blinded with hate. They can't even see what's going on behind the scene. Not like the average American can. We see it. We ain't stupid. We know what they're trying to do. And the silent majority of Americans ain't going to put up with it. We're not going to sit there and let them rule our life, take away our freedom. We're not going to do it. We'll fight till the end. America is free and should always be free. And these Democrats, you got Nancy Pelosi and her band, you got AOC and her band. You already got the infiltration of Ilhan Omar. She's not for America. She never has been and never will be. Neither is that Ilhan or that Rashida Tlaib. And there's a few others in there. They're not for America. They wanted to destroy America. It's conquer and destroy. Divide and conquer. If you divide the races and get them fighting against each other, it's that much more easy for them to swoop in and take your freedom. Both sides have to come back together. Blacks, whites, we have to come together. We have to stand together. Don't let this sadistic, far left Democrat Party divide us anymore. It's a game they play, folks, to get their agenda across. It's a political left-wing game. Trump got in. He's an outsider. They don't like it because he came in there and shook everything up. Shook it to the core. They're all running scared. Then you got the DOJ in there starting to make arrests, scaring them all. And they know that they have to take the focus off of that and put it on to the American people, and they pit the races against each other. And if you're willing to take that, if you're willing to follow their logic and agree with that, I feel sorry for you. Because it shouldn't be about that. You shouldn't pit human against human. It's not right. It's not fair to the American people. And what needs to be done? I'll tell you exactly what needs to be done. We need to take over our government. We need to go in, get them out of office, revamp. We need to take back our government by any means possible. You got to get this leader out of there. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Nadler, Schiff, AOC, Ilhan Omar, to Rashida Tlaib. Those are the top ones. Those are the only ones you ever hear talking negative about America. Nancy Pelosi is disgusting. She's senile back that should have retired 30 years ago. She should have never even been in office that long. None of them should have been. This is what's wrong with America. This is why this stuff is happening today. Too many career politicians in there. If you want real change, you got to elect new faces. That's the only way change comes. It ain't with the same old people, because with the same old people come the same old things. You have a lot of people that don't like change, but they have to understand every year there has to be some kind of a change. Every year America's adapting to new ideas. But it doesn't have to be a socialist idea. I ain't saying vote these socialists in. That would be the downfall of America. But you're going to have to make a change, guys. We got to get these career politicians out of office. Ain't no way around it. I thank you for watching. And if you would, please like, share, and subscribe.